So the insurance folks have decertified oil space heaters for use in any kind of residential application. This one is probably at least 50, probably 60 years old. Told the homeowner no insurance if he keeps it in. So he's made arrangements to have it removed, and then the insurance company says no insurance because you have no source of heat. The most effective heat source for a 3-season building like this is baseboard heating, which we are going to put in today just to supplement on the cold days in the spring and in the fall. So with the extra demand of the baseboard heating, this electrical service is not adequate. So we're going to change this. Secondary to that is the insurance company won't insure fuse panels anymore. So when you go to upgrade, it's time to move on to breakers. We'll use this part as a junction point, and we'll remake all the connections and move them over to where the new panel is going to go. This isn't a suitable location because the hydro code is very specific. You must have a meter of clear working space in front of where the panel is. Not possible with the fridge. So we'll move over his little safety switches for his pump and his hot water tank and make it all nice and new. So what I'm doing here is taking the old main disconnect out of the building. It's an old fuse system, won't be in use anymore, and I'm going to modify this fuse system so that we can use this box as a junction box, so all these wires won't have to get moved over into the other part of the panel. We'll bring the wires in through another pipe for protection, and all this will be cleaned up. And so this is the old main breaker box, and it's just going to the recyclers now. So of no use. Its brand name is Amalgamated Electric. It's been out of business about 40 years, and in fact Amalgamated lost their certification before they went out of business. So I've already removed the main switch, so everything over here is safe and it's dead. And in fact the main switch was cut off outside yesterday by Hydro One, but you would never go inside a panel like this unless it was dead. So what I'm going to do is remove some redundant wiring that we're not going to need for the modifications, and maybe start taking apart these old fuse cartridges. And here I go. So these two wires are the old main feed wires. The reason I'm doing this is just to make it so that it's easier for me to work with the other wires in the panel. There's no confusion as to what I'm doing. Always keep a nice garbage box handy for all this stuff so they're not picking up stuff twice. So what I discovered in here was one of these circuits was connected with a black and a red wire. Typically that's a 220 connection, but I noticed that the red wire was connected to this bar up here, which makes it a 110 connection. So what's happened is they needed to hook something up. They only had this wire available. It was a cottage, so that's what they chose to do. And the code recognizes these kind of situations, so I'm allowed to tape this red wire and identify it with white tape. So I know that it's to go back to the 110 volt side of the panel, not the 220. So it's just a little trick that you run into over the years. Into the opposite problem that what we have with this wire, and that is they've used a white wire on a 220 circuit. So it was connected across these two fuses, and I'm pretty sure it runs the hot water tank. I can trace that later when we do the labeling of the panel. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to identify this white wire as a black, and then I'll know when I reconnect it that it has to be connected as 220. There used to be a war manufacturing plant, and after the war, a lot of the aircraft wiring mysteriously disappeared out of the plant and showed up wiring people's houses. So I often go to a place that's got unmarked heavy-duty military cable in it running outlets.
That's crazy.
Well, when the war was over, they had a huge push. They built what's called wartime houses, and they were mostly built with surplus material, packing crates, old shell cases, stuff like that, and there would be no qualms at all about using this surplus wire. So plus it was free because they stole it from the factory. Anyway, we'll identify this, and this is an allowance that the code makes, even though using the wires as such is a code violation. The Electrical Safety Authority realizes that you have to be practical sometimes, and you're not going to convince someone to rewire a circuit because the color is wrong, so they allow you to identify it with tape. It won't come off, and it is a permanent way of marking what the wires are. So first thing we're going to do is see what the parameters are to install our panel. There is no rule about how low it can go, but the highest breaker can be no higher than 5'8", so we're actually in really good shape there. I would prefer to keep it around the 5 foot mark, but in here that's going to work out fairly well. So will be this board right here. So I'm just going to make a little mark on it, because it'll be covered up. And that's pretty much how the panel is going to go. This will make sure that this is clear for window coverings, and there's enough space on this side so that the cover will fit perfectly. I am just going to confirm that so we don't make a mistake. A good 3/4 of an inch, and I'll just physically try it anyway, even though I know that works. Better safe than sorry. And it fits perfectly with about a 1/16 of an inch to clear, so it's going to work out wonderfully. I always like to put the mounting screws back in the holes that they came from, and then that way you're not scrambling around wondering where they went. So what I'm going to do now is take a measurement from the top of the window down to where my X was. 15 inches down from the top of the window, another 13 for the panel. So that means I have a 28-inch range from the top of the window down to the bottom of the panel to make my entrance with the conduit. So I'm going to go back outside, and I'm just going to confirm that is going to work. Under further investigation outside, I've decided it's going to be better to mount the panel so that the main breaker is here. It's going to be a lot easier to do the piping and all the other work I need to do on the outside. It's still going to work just fine for our clearance here. It's exactly the same, just the main breaker will be on this side. Doesn't really matter if this is certified for use horizontally and vertically, just right or left or up or down, doesn't matter. Based on my calculations outside, my hole through to the exterior has to be in this area somewhere. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a slightly larger bit in here to make the hole so that it will pass this fitting. Then I will switch to one that's this size of pipe, so we're not creating a big cold spot coming through the wall on the client. That was easy. Have a little look inside the hole, make sure I haven't damaged anything. I'm sure I haven't. And no problem at all. Now it's clear sailing straight to the outside. Since this is completely open in here, there's no insulation, there's not really any point in me being too concerned about drilling the next size hole down because it's just wide open. I put my drill straight through and hopefully it'll make a mark on the other side and I'll be able to pick up the hole that way. If not, I'll put a longer bit in and try and get as close as I can to the center of the hole on the outside and drill from the other way. Installation like this, we're going to have some pipes protecting some wires that we're running outside. We've got a little hole in the panel already, but we need to make it the same size as this, and it's very inconvenient, noisy, and unprofessional to just drill it. So we have a special tool called a knockout that we put in, and using mechanical pressure from the tool, it will magically punch the hole to the correct size with no burrs on it. That way nothing gets damaged, mostly importantly my fingers. So you just get it finger tight and check to make sure we're going the right way. We're not, switch it around, and that's just a matter of tightening it up. And as it pulls the bolt through, the cutters make a nice, neat, trouble-free hole. Be very careful not to grip like this, because if it slips, you'll cut your hands on the side of the panel. So you always push down. And it's through, and we have a perfect burr-free hole.